You ever watch a team win something big and feel weirdly unsettled? Not because the result was bad, but because the way they did it proves they can win without a single obvious hero? That was the Knicks tonight. They came back from double digits, survived a Karl Anthony Towns scare, and outmuscled the Spurs 124 to 113 to lift the 2025 NBA Cup. If you're a league exec, that should make you sleep with one eye open. Picture this: Jalen Brunson not having his prettiest shooting night, 11 for 27, and yet walking out with the MVP because he orchestrated everything else. OG Anunoby dropping 28. Mitchell Robinson doing the kind of offensive rebounding clinic you don't even teach in practice because it feels like dirty work. Tyler Kolek and Jordan Clarkson injecting bench energy that felt like free points. That's not a star show, that's a team blueprint. And it's terrifying because it's repeatable. Let's hit the tape. First half, the Spurs looked alive. Victor Wembanyama giving flashes, the ball moving, San Antonio finding looks. The game had the pace and flavor of a classic cup showdown. Physical, a little messy, but with stakes sharp enough to make mistakes costly. The Spurs built an 11-point lead late in the third, and for a minute, you thought the young Spurs story might take one more chapter. Then the Knicks did what good teams do when they can't rely on one guy to carry them. They grabbed the ball back. They out-rebounded San Antonio 59-42. That's not a typo. Mitchell Robinson had 15 boards in 18 minutes, 10 on the offensive glass, and the Knicks turned those second chances into 32 points. That's a whole other game. You don't win titles in one quarter. You win them by forcing extra possessions until the scoreboard becomes a formality. Robinson was the fulcrum. 5 offensive rebounds in 90 seconds became a 3-minute, 16-2 run that flipped the script. Brunson didn't disappear. He was the steady hand. Even when his jumper was off, his decision-making and gravity were surgical. He collapsed the defense, found cutters, and let role players feast. OG Anunoby hit 28 on efficient looks. Cat. Yes, Karl Anthony Towns battled through an injury scare and still provided his unicorn spacing and screens. Jordan Clarkson and Tyler Kolek provided instant offense off the bench when the Spurs began to tighten up. That's bench depth you can't buy in a trade deadline frenzy. That's culture. What's the real headline here? Depth beats flash. The Knicks didn't need a single heroic shot because they had 1,000 tiny victories. Extra boards, smart passes, hustle plays, and a bench that refused to be decorative. For a franchise that hasn't sniffed the finals since 1999 and hasn't hoisted a true championship banner since 1973, this matters. It's a psychological pivot. The team now knows it can win when Brunson isn't lighting it up, when Towns is nicked, when a game gets ugly. That's how contenders are built. Let's talk durability and danger. Opponents can no longer scheme to stop Brunson and bank on the Knicks folding. You have to stop the bench, the glass, and the role players. That's a harder problem. OG and KK give them two-way stretch and rim gravity. Brunson runs the floor like a quarterback. Josh Hart brings the glue. Robinson, he's the garbage time engine that turns missed shots into lifelines. That assortment is the exact opposite of a one-trick pony. It's a Swiss Army knife. Of course, there are caveats. Wembanyama didn't have his biggest night, and the Spurs rotation still feels young and raw. David that they can scare teams if they stay healthy. The Knicks' physical style, crashing the boards, banging in the paint, will take a toll over an 82-game slog. Keeping egos aligned, minutes managed, and legs fresh will be a season-long chess match. But you know what's scarier for rivals? If New York's depth holds and those bench performances weren't flukes, this roster will be a nightmare matchup come playoff time. The prize checks are a fun subplot. Each Knicks player pockets over $500,000 for the cup run, while Spurs runners-up make a clean $212K. That's meaningful money for the role players who suddenly look and feel like difference makers. But the real payout is the message. This team just proved it can win soup to nuts. That carries weight when you need buy-in on defense in February and March. And let's not gloss over Brunson's MVP. It's not just about points. He controlled tempo, trimmed mistakes, and put his teammates in positions to succeed. If Brunson finishes the season playing this brand of leadership, the kind that doesn't need to be beautiful to be effective, you'll be hearing his name in MVP conversations for real. not because he's putting up historic scoring nights, but because he's the engine that makes the depths of this roster hum. So what's the takeaway for the rest of the league? First, stop assuming a championship trajectory requires a single transcendent scorer. Teams can win with complementary stars who perform within an ecosystem. Second, invest in the bench. It's not filler, it's insurance. Third, buy or develop players who value possession more than highlight reels. Mitchell Robinson didn't dunk over the world tonight. He grabbed rebounds and made them count. That's a skill as lethal as any three-point shot. Closing scene. The Knicks walk out of Vegas with a trophy and the look of a team that believes the season is theirs to define. They'll enjoy the moment, collect the checks, and then get back to the salt mines. Because the scary truth for opponents isn't that New York had a perfect night. It's that they have the tools to repeat it. Depth, toughness, and a point guard who makes winning look every day. That's a recipe you can't stop by just switching defenses. If you're a Spurs fan, be encouraged. Wembanyama and that young core will be a problem for years. If you're in the East, sleep with one eye open. The Knicks just proved they can win the weird ways, and weirdness wins titles when it's consistent. Now tell me, are the Knicks a legit title threat, or was the cup just a mid-season spark that will fizzle? Which bench player surprised you the most? They did it. Knicks are the 2025 NBA Cup champions. Down double digits late in the third, New York ripped the game away from the San Antonio Spurs and closed it out 124-113, clinching the franchise's third NBA Cup and sending a loud message. This team isn't just a one-man act. Jalen Brunson didn't have his best night, 11 of 27 from the floor, and Karl Anthony Towns left the game briefly with an injury that had fans holding their breath. That's the sort of storyline that would have busted past Knicks teams years ago. This time, it didn't matter. New York's role players answered the bell in a way big stars do when they become a real team. OG Anunoby was the poster child for that response. He poured in a game-high 28 points on efficient shooting, grabbed 9 rebounds, and played like the two-way stopper he's been built to be. Mitchell Robinson was a monster on the glass, 15 rebounds, 10 of them offensive, giving the Knicks possession after possession and physically wearing the Spurs down. Off the bench, Tyler Kolek and Jordan Clarkson gave instant scoring, and Josh Hart delivered the usual hustle and hard plays that keep offensive possessions alive. Brunson, despite the off night, did enough with his playmaking and gravity to pull defenses apart when it counted, and he walked away with NBA Cup MVP honors. On the Spurs side, Victor Wembanyama was back and getting heavier minutes than he had in the semifinal. San Antonio still got contributions across the board, with 7 players finishing in double digits. That depth kept the game competitive and made the comeback feel earned. But when New York shifted gears late, the Spurs couldn't match the Knicks' energy and physicality. There are a few things that make this cup win especially meaningful for New York. First, the prize money. Every Knick pockets $530,000